Some of the things that I read about in the environmental impact statement don't really address the full impact of the environmental. Understand that this site is in the floodplain of a river that flows downhill, and it affects everybody all the way to the ocean. I'm worried about the project being in the floodplain. Number one, the soils are not conducive to drainage. They talk about, permanent structures on there, adding fill. I don't really see in-depth mitigation program for the water, both the wastewater and the floodwaters. We live in an area that used to have 100-year storms every 100 years. Those meteorological things are thrown out the window. We have 100-year storms every 10 years. And the ones in between are tragic. I don't see a really realistic plan on how to control the debris and everything that's going to come off the site in a moderate flood. Never mind a major flood that we've seen. So I ask, the towns, because you guys are
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate that. Again, everybody's more than welcome to submit their comments, questions.
Good evening. My name is Maya Benrasa. I'm speaking here as a person with property in the town of Highland that I enjoy with my family throughout the year, along with enjoying the beautiful Delaware River that we love. I'm also the Delaware Riverkeeper. I'm leader of the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, and I'm founder of the National Green Amendments for the Generations movement, responsible for New Yorkers now having a constitutional right to clean water and air and a healthful environment, which you as government officials are constitutionally obliged to respect and protect. The Delaware River is an essential part of our community, bringing clean water, healthy wildlife, beauty, joy, business, and prosperity. The current campground, dominated by natural areas and primarily serving tent camping, suits the character of the town of Highland, offers essential protection to our scenic and recreational river corridor. Northgate wants to transform our beautiful riverfront into an RV industrial park dominated by permanent RVs, parking lots, buildings, pools, septic systems, fossil fuels, and other infrastructure. And all this damage is so that Northgate can generate more private profits for itself at the expense of our river and community. The proposed Camp FIMFO RV Industrial Park will cover and compact the currently well-draining soils of the site, transforming rainfall from a cleansed and infiltrating water resource into polluted runoff rushing off the landscape. When flooding happens, the Camp FIMFO RVs, fencing, pool chemicals and structures, buildings, septic, power and fossil fuel infrastructure can wash into the river, causing serious harm to the river system itself and all those that live downstream. Camp FIMFO's removal of over 14 acres of trees, including canopy and root systems, will inflict significant ecological harm. The addition of propane storage, piping, and use with unanalyzed and undisclosed dangers, including air pollution, climate-changing emissions, visual impacts, and the hazards of catastrophic incidents, accidents, and explosions, brings additional adverse environmental impacts and community dangers. If you approve this project, you will be setting precedent for more damaging projects of this kind to come to our river region and community, setting the stage to transform our entire Upper Delaware River corridor into an industrial RV landscape, taking this beautiful stretch of healthy river from present and future generations. And everyone will know that it all began here in the town of Highland. Or you can fulfill your legal and constitutional obligation to protect our river and community by saying no to Camp FIMFO, supporting a legacy of environmental beauty and protection for all the generations to come. Thank you.
Is it a Ned or a Nell Van Rossum? Another Van Rossum, but I'm not sure if it's a Ned or a Nell. Oh, not even close. Can you, you'll spell your name when you get there.
Annika Van Rossum, ANNEKEVANROSSUM. Oh, my time started. My name is Annika Van Rossum, and I own property in Highland, but I'm also an avid hiker and kayaker in this part of the Upper Delaware River corridor, and have been for a long time. Reading the DEIS, I couldn't help but notice the continued use of words like upgrade and improvement. How do you upgrade and improve a place so special, so unique, and so natural that it has received federal recognition for these qualities? And if Northgate was honest about one thing in the DEIS, it was saying that, quote, the Upper Delaware River dominates the scenery, and that's exactly how it should stay. So in what world do you consider adding over 956 plus parking spots, a 30-foot tall aquatic play structure, and 280 plus RV cabins, an improvement and an upgrade to one of the most natural places left in this country? You can't. You can only take it away from people, which is exactly what Camp FIMFO will do. Camping remains one of the most affordable ways for people to vacation. A riverfront basic tent site at Camp Kittatinny for 2 adults and 2 children for 3 days during peak season costs $333. When we look at a Camp FIMFO in Texas for the same number of people during the same peak season, the lodging costs upwards of $2,000, and that's a 6-fold increase in cost. Camp FIMFO further limits affordability with its plan to slash the current 342 tent sites at Kittatinny down to about 37 tent sites, leaving people with even less options. You are taking away this pristine nature and vacation spot from people who know this area is affordable and is one of the few places they are able to go consistently. When I kayak down the Delaware River, I'm not only taken by the beauty of the nature, but by the variety of people who are able to come and enjoy this area. I see people of every background and all different generations mingling at the riverside. I hear conversations and music of every kind as I go down, and I smell all the different delicacies of people cooking outside beneath the evergreens. But Camp FIMFO will outprice people from continuing to enjoy this area and those who have yet to enjoy it. Northgate knows it, and they know exactly who they are outpricing, and that in itself is totally misaligned with the character and culture of this area to be diverse and inclusive. Northgate can certainly throw around phrases like constructing buildings designed in the rustic architectural vernacular of the area coupled with attractive landscaping. But this area is not defined by that. It's defined by the fact that people from all walks of life and all socioeconomic status can come close and be close to nature and enjoy it in its purest form. There is no earth tone palette that can replace that. Camp FIMFO is 100% misaligned with the character of this community, with the culture of this community, and the planning board should say no to Camp FIMFO. Thank you.
K-R-I-S-T, first name C-H-E-R-E.
Sherry Christ. Although I've only lived here for 5 years, I lived in Pike County for 25 years, and I spent my first 25 years in the Susquehanna Valley. So I know about rivers. And as far as FIMFO goes, they bought a piece of property and intended to just shove something down the throats of everybody who lives here. They don't care what is here. They don't care what the neighborhood is like. They just want to do what they want to do. They've told us a different story every time they've come, and I don't trust them anymore. They offer no benefit to the neighborhood. We won't get any tax money from them, and we would be fools if we expect the clientele to shop at local stores or other local businesses. Now let me just get a few major points. You want to put in a big tower, a pool, and mobile homes. You call them RVs, but they are not. They are mobile homes that look a little nicer than the standard ones, and many are permanent structures. You know what the answer would be if you asked to put in a mobile home park. It would be a loud no. You want to have over 200 spots. They are not going to be taken away in the wintertime to be stored somewhere else. Excuse me. Like normal RVs. They will stay here year-round, unattended and unused. And that is if everything goes well. If it does not go well, they can always walk away and leave us with a destroyed property. If the river floods in the winter, who will be there to watch the property? Rivers don't just flood in the summertime when everybody's nearby. No one will be here to correct the damage that your place does on any kind of timely manner. They can just walk away. I have seen the damage that mobile homes can do during and after a flood. They float down the river into the bases of bridges. The damage that they do is not just local. It can go on for miles, and they can just walk away. Any damage to the property will take years to correct. Any damage to the environment may be permanent.
Damien Schmeisser, J-A-I.
I'm a PhD stream and river ecologist, and I've conducted extensive research on the Delaware River since 1992, including the effects of New York City's reservoirs on the river ecosystem. Does anybody remember Rocksnot? As well as detailed examinations of both the main stem and tributary water quality and ecological health. With my background and expertise, I've supported the Upper Delaware biolith surveys characterizing the extraordinary biodiversity of this region, and I'm also active in working with the National Park Service on safety patrols along the river, ensuring residents and visitors alike enjoy the river and then return home safely each night to their families. And I have spent my own time and my own money on camping and lodging livery services in and around the town of Highland. Tonight, I am here to testify that the Camp FIMFO proposal fails to comply with the town of Highland requirements, and the Camp FIMFO proposal fails to protect the environmental resources of the site and the region. In addition, I want to emphasize that such a massive, large-scale development would negatively impact my own experience in the town of Highland and on the Upper Delaware River. The planning board must not accept the DEIS and must deny approval of Camp FIMFO's outrageous plan and protect the town of Highland from this impending threat. I see the greatest environmental failures with the impacts to water resources by converting tent campsites to semi-permanent structures as well as other improvements. The increase in impervious coverage of nearly 7 acres will cause sediment and nutrient pollution to Beaver Brook and the Delaware River, and the applicant proposes inadequate mitigation. The increase in wastewater disposal to shallow groundwater aquifers on the order of 30,000 gallons per day will cause irreparable impacts to groundwater and surface water resources and will negatively affect the aquatic life that depends so critically on the pristine conditions we know and experience today. But the impacts are legion: impacts to traffic, impacts to safety, impacts to noise levels, nearly 15 acres of tree removal, increases in parking and moving parking to higher risk areas along the river, permanent fossil fuel infrastructure within the floodplain. And let me highlight a fundamental error by the applicant. I know this because I have camped at the former Kittatinny campsite. This is not currently operating as an RV campground. You know this. This contention by the applicant is preposterous. With 300 tent campsites currently, nearly all of which will be lost. Everywhere we look, there are failures by the applicant, failures to accurately represent the full environmental impacts, failures to comply with the town of Highland requirements, failures to comply with the National Park Service's River Management Plan. In total, this proposal fails to protect the town of Highland, fails to protect both residents and visitors, and fails to protect this sensitive environmental setting. The planning board must deny this approval. Thank you.
Glenn Pontier, P-O-N-T-I-E-R. I live on the, I'm a neighbor of Kittatinny, and my property borders their property. A couple of concerns. I was born in Kingston, which is one end of the D&H Canal, which ran from Kingston through Port Jervis to Homestead. My son was born in Homestead. So I live along that canal right now, which runs in front of FIMFO. So this is important. I lived in Port Jervis. I worked on the river management plan. If you look at the names of the list people that wrote it, I want to just end by saying that this project does not meet the intention of those of us that worked on the river management plan. I also used to work for the Bethel Woods Center for the Arts. I was one of the researchers that helped to create it, and I'm the deputy town supervisor. I have a couple of technical things. I didn't find a map of the property in the EIS. And I saw a map of the project area, but a map of all the property with property lines and the neighbors of the property. I would think that was just basic. If you're going to do a project, you would have all the lot lines with the neighbors' property names. I also would love to have seen superimposed structures superimposed on the flood map, so we know actually which buildings will be in the flood zones. All right, it's not too much to ask. I saw the flood maps, I saw the structures. 4 quick points. There's a big discussion about whether these are permanent or not permanent. National Park Service says these structures are permanent. FIMFO says, oh, they're not permanent. This solution is just remove them. Every year, just take them out of the flood zone, particularly. If they're not permanent, easy. All right. I saw things like limiting conditions on the sanitary wastewater disposal discussion. Some of they're going to just discharge into the ground. Some of it said was they had limited conditions, so they were going to use a shallow trench system. What the hell is that? Do you know when you're discharging water, groundwater, and it doesn't meet your compliance, so now they have some shallow trench system? That's going to need a lot more attention for you guys to look into. They also say there are no plans for expansion at the project site. But the project site is not the property owned. That's why they need a map of the property. So are they going to expand into the property that isn't in the project site? And if they're not, why don't they reach an agreement with, say, the Delaware Highlands Conservancy to give up the development rights in the future for the land they're not going to develop? That would calm a lot of people's... So they discussed the issue.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Devin Geyer, and I am on the legal team with the Delaware Riverkeeper Network. Delaware Riverkeeper Network will submit a full and robust comment explaining why you are authorized and justified to say no to Camp FIMFO. This draft EIS minimizes project impacts through misrepresentations and intentional omissions that disguise the true magnitude of the project. The draft EIS omits the number of expected yearly visitors by discussing only maximum campground occupancy, and fails to disclose that the project will host double the current number of yearly visitors. It includes elements in its site plans and conceptual master plan that are not mentioned anywhere else, such as a propane line, an additional pool and hot tub, golf cart parking spaces and path, a malt shop and forest overlook tower, mountaintop sites, and 285 parking spots for river trip guests. The visual renderings of the project are misleading. They do not depict the site's expected occupancy or provide a complete view of the campground, and they downplay project components by using images entirely different from the component they are meant to render. The draft EIS includes many inconsistencies, such as the variation in the proposed number of RZ sites, parking spots, and employees. It makes no mention of the anticipated cost increases for campsite reservations that may make the campground too expensive for community members. It makes no mention of the threats to water quality from storing chlorine, gasoline, and diesel within the floodplain, or from the propane lines, or from the increase in septic wastewater. It wrongly equates impacts of dissimilar project features of different sizes, purposes, resources, and intensities, and provides no justification for doing so. It wrongly asserts the project will increase shopping at stores in town by omitting its own plan to build a store on site. And it wrongly characterizes Kittatinny as an RV campground to justify the project, without acknowledging 80% of the sites are designed for tent camping. It downplays traffic impacts by failing to disclose that the original traffic study did not consider the increase expected from the change of allowing non-camper use of the aquatic play area and mini golf course. It doubled the number of parking spots proposed from an August submission to now without modifying any of its impact analysis. Despite the large amount of construction necessary to implement such unprecedented changes to this site, it ultimately concludes, without reason, that no mitigation is required. This is just an abbreviated list, but it makes clear that Camp FIMFO does not comply with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, the Upper Delaware Scenic and Recreational River Management Plan, the Town of Highland's own municipal ordinances, nor the New York State Constitution. And as such, you have the authority as well as the justification to say no to Camp FIMFO, and Delaware Riverkeeper Network urges you to do so. Thank you.
My name is Shaylin Parker, and I am speaking on behalf of Green Amendments for the Generations, a national organization. Our work has helped to secure New Yorkers' constitutional rights to clean water and air and a healthful environment. It is the Planning Board's legal obligation to uphold this right, including by making full, fair, and informed decisions on projects that will impact the environment. The Camp FIMFO proposal is both a direct threat to the environment and full of mischaracterizations, omissions, and conflicting information. One example is the applicant using the new maximum occupancy of the campground as a flawed and dishonest argument in an attempt to cover up the actual impacts of the proposed site. The maximum occupancy alone does not tell us how many people will be at the newly proposed campground at any given time. Rather, the expected occupancy is needed to determine this. This information is not directly provided in the DEIS, potentially as a way for the applicant to minimize or hide the actual impacts of their project proposal. However, using the applicant's own estimations of occupancy rates at the proposed site, we were able to uncover that there will likely be over 47,000 visitors to the campground each year. This is more than double the current annual visitors, which is around 20,000, and does not even account for visitors during weekdays in the summer or individuals with day passes, as the applicant withholds that information from the DEIS. The applicant knows there will be a huge spike in the number of campground visitors, as evidenced by their addition of hundreds of parking spots, thousands of gallons of water and wastewater flows, 16 new septic systems, each with an expansion area, and doubling the number of employees. However, they are not upfront about the tens of thousands of new visitors in the DEIS, and instead try to warp the argument into one about decreased maximum occupancy. This huge increase in visitors will have major impacts, including more intense land use, increased traffic and parking, strain on emergency services, intrusive noise and visual impacts, increased carbon emissions, water demand, and wastewater flows, detracting from the peaceful and natural community character, and impacts to just about every other aspect of the area. None of these impacts are discussed or mitigated in the DEIS. Instead, the applicant appears to intentionally hide this information from the Town of Highland public and governing bodies in order to accomplish their private for-profit goals, putting both the environment and the town at great risk, all for the applicant's own benefit. The Planning Board must say no to Camp FIMFO to stop the applicant's lies, protect this cherished part of the Upper Delaware River, and uphold the environmental rights of town residents. And one more thing I'd like to mention, there's no way the Planning Board can uphold full, fair, and informed decision-making by limiting speaking to 3 minutes, not allowing Zoom participants, and not publishing
Christine Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N.
Hello, good evening. Good evening to the brave citizens of the Delaware Valley who have come to share their feelings and thoughts. Good evening to the Town of Highland Planning Board and to the visitors who have come from so far away. Today I am honored to share my thoughts and my feelings about the historic and far-reaching issue. I want to thank the Town of Highland Planning Board for taking the time needed to get all the facts, for listening to the concerns of local residents, and not for being influenced by outside organizations and county level interests. This is truly a landmark moment for the independence, autonomy, and self-determination of our town. The Town of Highland Planning Board is the lead agency on this decision, and no one from Monticello or Liberty can take that away. The corridor is a protected environmental gem, and that cannot be treated the same as every other commercial tourist attraction. So if you'll allow me this little moment, I'm going to provide a prayer for FIMFO. Dear FIMFO, we come together as a community, united in our love of the Upper Delaware River and its surrounding lands. We humbly ask for you to join us in this prayer for belongingness, environmental stewardship, and community responsibility. May we all recognize our interconnectedness with nature, our collective duty to protect it. As we stand on the banks of this majestic river, let us remember that we are not separate from the environment, but an integral part of it. We pray for your awareness of the delicate balance that exists in our ecosystem. May your plans reflect a deeper understanding of the potential impacts on water, land, and wildlife. Let us work together to maintain the natural, scenic, and rural character of this corridor that we all cherish. We ask for your commitment to sustainable practices that honor the traditional use of this land. May your projects seek to enhance rather than intensify, preserve rather than alter, and respect rather than exploit. As families and community members, we all bear the responsibility of environmental stewardship for future generations. May you be guided by the wisdom to listen, the humility to learn, and the courage to challenge your assumptions. Let us embrace a sense of belonging that extends not just to people, but to the very land that we inhabit. In closing, we ask for the grace to remember that we are all part of something greater than ourselves. We are all a witness here today. Thank you very much.
Christine, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-N-E.
Thank you. I'm Mike Edison. I live in Barryville. And first, I'd like to thank the Planning Board for your hard work and courtesy. Thank you all very much. It is not unappreciated. For years, businesses here have tried to elevate the experience of the river corridor and highlight our natural blessings, the river, the trees, nature, all things that make this area so special. The same reason why we all love living here. FIMFO wants to chop it down and get rid of traditional camping and build a corporate resort. And they have the chutzpah to say fun is more fun outdoors. All right, I'm going to say it because we're all thinking it. FIMFO is just a dumb name, and it just devalues the experience of the river.
Respect, please.
Oh, I feel stupid every time I say it. They boast they took 16 tons of trash out of the river since they've been here. What they fail to say is there's an obvious connection between irresponsible tourism and pollution, and that they are part of the problem. They plan to build hundreds of small houses and cabins, and FIMFO wants you to believe they are temporary RVs. I remember what Andy Borders said at a planning board meeting last year. Maybe we should get an 8-year-old and ask them if these are cabins or RVs, then we'll get an honest answer. We don't need a child to tell us. We all know that these are cabins, and they're not movable or temporary in any way. If that's not the case, prove it with a full-scale fire drill. If these are RVs, they should be stored off-site during the off-season. Otherwise, what you're building is a housing development. And please, FIMFO, explain your threat that if you don't build this resort, the area will become a worthless religious camp. As it is, there has not been adequate chance for the public to review the site plans. It's impossible for anyone who's not an engineer to really fully understand them. On the website, there are dozens and dozens of PDFs, enormous files and documents. They're impossible to parse, and especially in the short period of time that ran across the holiday season. So I request that the public comment period be extended to 120 days, that an additional hearing be held. Now, incidentally, there are 50 pages of letters saying the same thing on the town's website. And for the benefit of the public, to make this review complete, honest, and fair, I ask that FIMFO provide a scale model of this project to be put on display for public review. We need a detailed model that includes, but is not limited to, all new construction clearly indicating, with flood zones clearly shown, all new toilets, accurate depiction of the cabins, all planned tree clearing, including a complete tree census, all the pools with accurate volume water usage, the water slides, and any areas earmarked for further construction. The applicant said this is what you see is what you get, but they continually changed it. There should be no ambiguity. If you have nothing to hide, show us in a manner everyone can understand. We all know that when money gets involved, the environment is the first thing to go. And that being said, I think speakers should have to indicate if they have any financial incentive when they make their speeches. Thank you very, very much for your hard work.
I apologize.
Here tonight from the town of Highland, and a lot of people not from the town of Highland, who are all here to express their interest. It would be great if in future meetings, people could not only identify where they're from, but if they are affiliated with an organization who will financially benefit from the project. I see a lot of signs here that are professionally printed, as is their right. As is their right for people who champion casino as our salvation to come tell us what is best for our town, people that live here. So let's talk about the draft environmental statement, which is what you're going on. And the only thing that actually matters tonight, the rest is just noise. The elephant in the room is the Barnes landfill, which is a toxic landfill directly adjacent to the site. Shares a border with it. The draft environmental statement makes no mention how leachate from that site will flow through that site once the site is disturbed with new construction. That's a major flaw. As has been mentioned, there's 100-year storms happening every couple of years now. So what happens to that runoff? It's not just the debris from trailers, it's actually toxic chemicals that this county has not addressed dealing with, nor has any of the organizations that are here promoting this site. I hope that you'll take that into consideration and that the FIMFO folks will have to address how that will be dealt with. That's it. Thank you.
Nona Hall, H-A-L-L.
Hi, my name is Nona Hall. I'm a small business owner in one of the businesses of town of Highland. I just want to say something small, and I'm addressing to our dear planning board. I just please be careful when you're making this decision, as many of us already expressed our opinion before, that the big corporation like this is not going to benefit to our little town. As we know, the taxes are going to be completely exempt from the town. The job opportunity is a very big laugh because it's not addressed to the small community to hire any people, they're bringing their own. I don't see any benefits for this community, including, as somebody already mentioned, we don't see how that clientele gonna participate in shopping in small business and stuff. And as a matter of fact, I don't know how students of SUNY could get benefit of job. Like I think it's not actually right, because the job is not going to be provided for a small community like ours. And big environment effect, it was already mentioned by many specialists. I just please just consider our small town opinion instead of people coming with information just received by big corporation a couple of days ago, and they supporting this project. We going through this all the time. We moved from city, from different towns, just to admire this river to enjoy our nature, to protect our animals and all environment that we actually enjoy. We're doing, as a small businesses, we're doing everything to keep it attractive for people that come and enjoy it. I'm sorry, I was nervous, but I guess you got my point.
Sildorf, I believe.
2. River water samples should be collected and tested periodically by a third party from different spots along the river along FIMFO's property at FIMFO's expense. Any contamination should elicit a cease and desist immediately. 3. The latest plan shows alarming addition of large propane storage and lines running along the floodplain and creeks. How does FIMFO plan to guard from contamination during floods and during leakage, and due to leakage? FIMFO must provide means to mitigate this risk rather than noting by other. It is not acceptable to leave that to a contractor's goodwill. FIMFO should similarly exhibit efforts to ensure that the 16 added septic tanks, septic outfalls, and chlorinated pool water disposal do not contaminate our beloved river. 4. FIMFO must provide renderings showing site and project-specific views, an aquatic center including all the slides and the pools and any structure or lots visible from the scenic byway or the river. A current view should be juxtaposed with a proposed one. I'm an architect. This is standard practice and the only way to understand the scale and intent of the project. Similarly, they should provide a night view showing the dark sky fixtures they are claiming to have. FIMFO, number 5, FIMFO should provide information on the jobs they promised us, including full and part-time positions, hourly ranges, and the percentage number of people hired locally. FIMFO should prioritize full-time local hires as they promised. The hiring should be also monitored to ensure that local workforce is maintained into the future and fined for any deviation. FIMFO were granted 40 years of tax abatement by Sullivan County, while our own taxes keep going up. How will FIMFO contribute and reduce the strain on the local infrastructure?
Thank you very much.
Anonymity. I don't want to be threatened by anybody, so I didn't want to say where I'm from.
But you can spell your name though, we do need it for the record.
Brown, B-R-O-W-N. Honestly, I was ready to pack it up, hearing all the people that were supporting this, but then I realized, wait a minute, it's their job to support it. And then also I was thinking, earlier, I would hate for it to be like Hudson Valley, and I heard somebody else say they're from Hudson Valley supporting this. No wonder, because they think it's going to turn into that. So anyway, I am so impressed with all the people that are saying what is wrong with this, because it doesn't seem like a good idea. Look at all the camps that have been abandoned. If you want a Disneyland, why don't you use one of those scrapped areas that are abandoned right now? People just walk away, and that's what could happen with this project. I'm all for change and improving our community environment, but this project is a disgrace to the people that live in this community as well as downstream. One noted factor is the 16 septic tanks and fields proposed. That one fact should shut down this project, which should be criminal. It doesn't take a genius to figure out it's just a matter of time before something goes wrong with one or more of them and the Delaware River will be at risk. And how about all the water that is needed to process those toilets? How many of the neighbors' wells are going to go dry? We just got out of a drought. Northgate could easily provide renderings with details of the proposed project, but they haven't done that, and that makes me wonder what they are hiding. Or will they try to change once if it is approved? You're trying to put Disneyland in the middle of a nature-preserved area. It's obvious
That with so many people showing up at each meeting, we don't want this project. Please stop this madness and realize that this is a very bad idea and our resources are already stretched. Maybe you could come up with a more feasible project instead of this greedy land disaster. Something like maybe donating the land so that it could become a park and safe and pristine. Anyway, thank you for listening.
My name is Fred Stein. I live in South Jersey, down in the Cherry Hill area where sprawling suburbs run into one another. For decades, the rivers and streams down there have been choked with sewage and sediment from all the development and are only now being nursed back to health after an investment of hundreds of millions of dollars in sewer treatment plants, etc., all at the taxpayer's expense. That's why I drove 3.5 hours tonight to Highland to urge you not to make the same mistakes we've done in South Jersey. Those mistakes didn't happen overnight. They happened one Camp FIMFO at a time. In my area, we're down to the last remaining farm in Cherry Hill. We're down to the last remaining farm, and it's no more than a tourist attraction, so kids can go and see what the farm looks like. I'm here to urge you to recognize that if Camp FIMFO is approved, it's likely only a matter of time before the next Camp FIMFO project comes along, and the next Camp FIMFO project comes along, and you're left with only a small patch of woods left to look at to remind future generations what this river valley looks like today. And to you it may sound ridiculous, but that's likely what all the farmers once said in South Jersey. There were men and women sitting on land use boards just like you are tonight saying, it's only one farm. We have plenty of farms and we could use the houses. Now we have only one novelty farm left. I come up to the Upper Delaware to lead paddling trips. I'm a volunteer with the National Park Service and I help lead paddling safety on the weekend. I camp many times at Kittatinny, many times at Landers, at Sylvan Farms, and up in Neewee. But I also do it with the Boy Scout troops, my church youth group, and my family. We all come up here to the Catskills to truly experience the outdoors, the dark skies, the pine-scented air, and other elements of being out in nature. The Poconos used to be a lot more, used to have a lot more to offer, but because of creeping development down there, that's becoming scarcer and scarcer. That's why I fear Camp FIMFO's proposal, where all of those natural experiences will be diminished, if not lost, to hundreds of air-conditioned, indoor-oriented RVs, to the glitzy water parks and mini-golfs, where there used to be tent sites and dirt roads. What Camp FIMFO is proposing is homogenizing your neighborhood, your community, to the sort of experience and activities that people can literally find off the New Jersey Turnpike in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I can't believe that is what you feel is in the best interest of your community. My final point is the state constitution. I just remind you, and you've heard it tonight, that the state has a Green Amendment, Article 1, Section 19, that guarantees. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
FIMFO offers a combination of 194 additional cabins, airstreams, and park model RVs. Let's call them what they are. They are residences. They are homes. The American Water Works Association and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation estimates a per capita wastewater generation of 100 gallons. According to the very article that FIMFO generated for us to review, they estimate that they will have north of 2,000 people in any given weekend. With that calculation, that is an estimate of 200,000 gallons of wastewater generation per day on the busy season. The existing and future design systems that they've proposed captures a fraction of that. They propose 30,000 gallons of wastewater, leach, and drainage systems. Northgate has constructed a narrative that misinforms you. the public, and the supporters into believing that these structures are temporary or mobile. Whatever name these structures are given, their waste generation is exactly the same as a permanent residence. If this town were considering a 200-home subdevelopment, they would be requiring an advanced wastewater treatment system that captures all of it, not some of it. It is not reasonable for 170,000 gallons of wastewater to be handled by porta-johns and temporary wastewater systems. We, as a community, should demand all of the wastewater be captured, regulated, monitored, flow metered, and tested. By allowing the progression of the Camp FIMFO project, we are inviting a wolf into the henhouse. The fact that this project has taken longer than the construction of the Tappan Zee Bridge proves that this community cares and proves that we don't want it.
McGrath, Andy, A-N-D-Y.
M-C-G-R-A-T-H. Planning board members, we appreciate you. You're our neighbors. We see you around town. We don't take lightly the decision that you have at hand, and we appreciate your diligence through this project proposal. There's one thing I want to say, first and foremost, for the record, that to my knowledge, and sitting here in front of you all this evening, not one person in support of Camp FIMFO is a resident or a landowner in the town of Highland. I've proudly called Lumberland my home for the past 10 years, and for the past 3 years, I'm a business and landowner in the town of Highland. And I'm here to strongly object to the Camp FIMFO project. From the limited information that's been provided by Northgate Resorts, it's clear that this project represents blatant overdevelopment of our river corridor and is designed solely to pad the profits of a Michigan-based corporation. FIMFO has offered no concrete plan or data to show how it will benefit this community, its residents, or its businesses. Why is that? Because I believe no such plan exists. Their model is clear. Isolate their patrons, providing everything to them on site for a fee, from refreshments to firewood, while cutting out the small family-run businesses that are currently supported by campers and visitors to our area. FIMFO and its corporate owners intend to exploit the natural beauty we cherish and drain our town's resources for their own gain. This project has already strained our planning board, and if approved, will overwhelm our town's regulatory services, emergency management, EMS resources for years to come. Adding insult to injury, the 40-year tax abatement is nothing short of an outrage. And let's not kid ourselves, this won't be the end. If the project moves forward, they'll continue to push zoning boundaries and expand their operations, extracting even more from our town while giving back nothing. Members of the planning board, I urge you to reject this reckless, short-sighted project. Stand with the people who live, work, and invest in this community. Choose responsible, sustainable development that protects our town's future, not a billion-dollar corporation with no stake in our well-being. Thank you very much.
You can spell your last name, please.
F-I-S-H-E-R. Good evening, my name is Eve Fisher. I have lived in this area for over 10 years and own property and a business just 2 miles from the proposed development. I strongly object to this project as it currently stands. I urge the planning board to make the right decision by rejecting this proposal and requiring the developers to return to the plan that aligns with the river management plan and our town's comprehensive plan. I implore you not to be influenced by corporate pressure or other questionable interests. Please prioritize the well-being of our community, the residents who call this place home, over the interest of a billion-dollar corporation. Thank you.
Anyway, my name is Truls Robinson. I am one of the original members of the Upper Delaware Council Water Resource and Management Committee, and I was charged to help draft the river management plan. And as with Glenn, we've been here a long time. This is not the same Kittatinny that Frank and Ruth Jones owned. It is a business, and it needs to be treated as a business. In reading the environmental assessment, a lot of it actually couldn't be answered for one simple reason. There is no baseline that monitors the current condition of water coming out of Beaver Brook. Beaver Brook is the outflow of waters from those lands. And we all know the Barnes landfill. And we know what happened to the Barnes landfill. And any development needs to be monitored. So therefore, and I'm going to read it now as best I can, as a riverfront landowner, directly downstream from this project, using the clean and free-flowing river for recreation for 4 generations. We've used that river half-mile down from Kittatinny for 4 generations, long before Kittatinny was a campground. I cannot support this development unless there is water quality monitoring is used to control development by providing data on the potential environmental impacts of construction projects, allowing authorities to identify areas with sensitive water systems and implement regulations to mitigate pollution, such as requiring specific drainage systems or maintaining mitigation measures to prevent water quality during construction and post-development phases. Key points about using water quality monitoring is to identify sensitive areas in the water.
Thank you, Jules. Appreciate it. Judith Kahn, K-H-A-N. No, we're not. Okay. Stephanie, maybe? Porto?
So I'll keep this short. My name is Stephanie Porto, P as in Paul, O-R-T as in Tom, O. I am a therapist and social worker working in Sullivan County with children and families. I do not support this plan as it stands, mostly on the basis of all of the things that have been said, but I'm going to focus on the 40-year tax abatement being offered to this massive out-of-state corporation. In a county where our resources are already stretched thin. We desperately need tax dollars for our kids and county-run or subsidized diversion programs to keep young people out of the justice system instead of investing in resources that uplift our community. This deal allows a corporation to profit while contributing next to nothing to our local economy. This resort won't solve our community's problem. It will only deepen it.
Travis Weber.
Weber, W-E-B-E-R.
And it is Travis.
Yeah, Travis, yeah. I'm a resident of Lumberland, and I live here full-time, and I'm opposed to Camp FIMFO. I'm going to tell you a personal story, because I'm maybe the only person in this room who's actually been to New Braunfels, Texas. and that's where Camp FIMFO has their other establishment. What's happened to New Braunfels is incredibly sad. What brought me to this area is the childhood memories of floating the Guadalupe River in New Braunfels, Texas. And it's very special, very magical, you know, very close to nature. And those experiences is something that you can no longer get in New Braunfels because of companies that have come in like this, big corporations that have just turned it into a joke of a town. What used to be very historical, very beautiful, small town, much like our town here, is no longer there. And it's really freaking sad. And I don't want to see that happen here. I love living here, I love being on the river, and I love the small town and the people that I meet and the friendships I've been able to develop because of that. It would really break my heart to see corporations move in and provide, you know, change that nobody else wants. Thank you so much.
You found your twin in George Millard. You found your twin in George Millard.
Thank you, Town of Highland Planning Board. Stanley, S-T-A-N-L-E-Y. It's a very passionate evening. A lot of us have been here many times. If it's true that this is the longest and biggest project approval in Sullivan County, there's an obvious reason why. It's not in compliance with the river management plan. This will have a catastrophic environmental impact on the quality of life, on the impact of local residents and tourists, upstream and downstream. Especially if they expand and buy out all the other campgrounds. The plans have also changed numerous times, thus the delays. The lengthy review, recently saying they will clear 14 acres on the mountain. FIMFO brags about the 40K people in the river last summer. I don't know if that's something to brag about, and I don't think that we think it's a good idea, any of us. FIMFO brags about 500 tons of trash that they retrieve from the river. I don't think that's something to brag about. Where is all the trash coming from? Imagine all the trash and more trash that will come from Camp FIMFO. FIMFO does not care about the environment. This project is not sustainable as the county organizations claim it is. There is no consideration for climate change in the scope of the approval. There should be a moratorium on any large development until the climate change effects are prioritized in approvals. Let's stop kicking this garbage can down Route 97.
My name is Joseph Christ. I live at 793 State Route 55. That's where everybody throws their garbage when they're coming on the way back and forth from places like FIMFO. The case against Camp FIMFO is easy to make merely on the grounds that the project is totally inappropriate for the local environment. So that's not my point here. Instead, I want to cite the many ways in which Northgate and its associates have indicated what terrible neighbors they would be. They've shown a complete disregard for the location within the river corridor. Their plans for a 30-foot sign are beyond insensitive. The proposed water park is unnecessary. Just take a look at images of their operation in New Braunfels, Texas, and ask if that is what belongs in our precious river corridor. They will commit to no community benefits, no aid to the fire district or ambulance corps, support for our local schools, prioritizing the use of local vendors. Their own words and actions lead to that judgment, not local prejudice. They've relied on and brought in front of the community several entities with no relation to the town. The RV trade group from 200 miles away, out-of-state consultants, employees who may or may not be town residents, and then they try to limit public comment to only those who live within the town of Highland. If they understood the unique character of the Upper Delaware, they'd appreciate the unique responsibility they bear to maintain and not desecrate a national treasure. And what are we receiving in exchange? Not lower individual property taxes, not significant new net revenues to the town, not meaningful employment opportunities for the town. It will not create an asset that can be utilized by the town's residents. If the project does not do these things, but instead threatens an environment that is still emerging and evolving and it's finding an increasing number of natural species all the time, the project fails the most minimal test of acceptability. It is possible to create environmentally friendly recreational activities. It just doesn't meet the goals of this out-of-state corporation with no real ties to this location. It's not the job of the board to facilitate their business goals. FIMFO has plenty of allies in the Sullivan County Partnership and the IDA. Problem is, hotel occupancy taxes, sales taxes may benefit the county, but they do not directly benefit the town's residents. The partnership and the IDA have made their position very clear, and that position essentially tells us to suck it up for the benefit of the county. I would simply ask Mr. Byers of the county how he would like to live next to this project. There are many risks when Northgate chose to buy the KC campgrounds, and part of our capitalist system is the acceptance of risk. No one asked Northgate to come here. It's clear that they misunderstood the nature of this unique community, and they knew that the project would be very controversial. The potential environmental damage that would have been done at their failed project in Massachusetts pales in comparison to what could happen here. We also cannot ignore the complete disrespect this community has received, especially from the FIMFO legal team. Their feigned inability to understand what they're being asked for, and their continued insistence that the proposed structures are not permanent is belied by their failure to refute press descriptions of the permanent nature of the structures the plans call.
Thank you, Joseph. Clark, I'm not sure the first name.
It's Herb, H-E-R-B. Clark without an E.
Good evening. Faith Zerby, it's F as in flower, A-I-T-H, Zerby, Z-E-R-B as in boy, E as in Edward. Thank you for holding this meeting. I want to say a couple things, and I'm not too organized because I haven't had time in the 2 weeks to really look through things very clearly. We appreciate you having this meeting, but it would be really important to ensure that it goes into January for others that are not here because of the holidays and other things happening with their families. So please consider allowing more public ample time so that we can continue the process that you're deliberating and to make sure that we do protect this incredible river. So I do not live here in New York. I have a farm in Schuylkill County, but I spent most of my time in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, which is one of the most concentrated populations. And for over 25 years, I've come up to this beautiful, incredible place that you've all worked so incredibly hard to protect until now. And as I come up through the different areas, right outside of the water gap and outside of this beautiful, scenic, wild river, you see many resorts, right, along the way. We have Fernwood Resort, right, which is, I think, now burned down. It's no longer a resort, right? We had the little water park in Inner Tube, people, where they would be literally in the stormwater basin outside of the water gap, right? You have Kalahari, the Lehigh Valley area. Right now, lots happening with our Pocono waters to protect those recreational places, getting paved over with Ponzi schemes like this FIMFO operation. We do not need our children and our blood pressure and our health to be incorporated into little boxes. We come from those places with pollution, right? Stormwater, many people mentioned stormwater issues of death by 1,000 cuts. You've done such a great job to now, and even now, you're still doing a good job, but please, please don't throw this away. This river is an incredible place, and it keeps everybody rejuvenated, and it's a place to get together and look at nature, look at the eagles, listen to the sounds. I have spent a lot of time on the volunteering with the National Park Service on safety patrols in the upper part of the river. I've brought countless people to the river
to enjoy it, right up in Soaring Eagle and other different places. All these incredible places that still exist because of your deliberation. So please do not allow this greenwashing to happen. And it's been outlined, and we will be doing more review of this EIS, but we need so much to protect this beautiful place. Couple points, light pollution, huge. Beaver Brook, really a great pristine area. Steep slopes and 14 acres of forest to be decimated. The floodplain and the floodway and the stormwater is...
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
David, Joe.
I came here this evening because I didn't know what FIMFO was really all about, even though it's been going on for a while. But I do know that Sullivan County is one of the poorest counties in New York State and one of the sickest. And I do know that water is pretty damn important. It's life, as we've seen a lot of signs when there was big on fracking. We used to live outside of Philadelphia, and I'd stand at Penn's Landing and look out, and there's no way I'd want to drink that water or swim in that water. We've been coming up to Highland Lake now for, well, since I've been married, 37 years. We're full-time for 18 years. And it's a small town. Everyone has to contribute. So when I came up here, I joined the fire department. I was in the fire department for 13 years. I dropped out 2 years ago because I got burned out. When there's a call, you respond, whatever time of day or night. But because there's so few volunteers in Lumberland, Highland, Hewland, and across the river in Shohola, everything's mutual aid. So what used to be 50 calls is now 150 calls. And a lot of times you want to enjoy that time with your family on holidays when all these people are coming up from the city to enjoy the river, which is their prerogative. But on the Delaware, every year we lose a number of people and local lakes. And, you know, these young guys, they're partying, they're drinking alcohol, they got their hormones going, they think they can swim across. Well, they can't, and they drown. And then they call volunteers to come search for them and pull them out, spending hours and hours looking for people. They're usually not locals, they're usually out-of-towners who don't know the power of the river. And the river up here, even though it's much smaller than the Delaware River down in Philadelphia, it's still a mighty force, and we want to keep it clean. And you know, as a volunteer with the fire department and the ambulance crew, you know, when there's a call, hours and hours of their time, they're donating. And to my knowledge, Kittatinny, before or FIMFO in the future, if it comes to be, are not contributing to the manpower or the expenses that are incurred by our local companies. And I really didn't know much about it, but the first 10 people that came up here were all hired guns. They don't live here. I live up the road, 3 miles up the road, and I care what happens in this community. You know, dogs don't shit in their own kennel. But I think some of these people, they don't care what happens down in the lower part of the county. Maybe they live in the upper part of Sullivan, but what happens down here is not going to affect them. And I've got concerns.
Aaron